Well, I'm sad to say that this is the last interview of the 12th annual Wild and Scenic Film Festival here in Nevada City. But I'm very happy to say that I'm here with my friend Mark Dubois, the man. He's an activist. Mark and I have known each other. We did the first Pachamama training together. Mark goes back to the 70s when he chained himself to bedrock in the Stanislaus River to keep it from flooding. He's been the 1990 and 2000 international coordinator for Earth Day with 180 countries participating and I don't know, hundreds of millions of people.
200 million people actively engaged in doing things for those events.
Yeah, and he's also the co-founder of Save the Rivers? No.
Friends of the River.
Friends of the River, thank you.
International Rivers Network.
You got too many titles.
Well.
But tell us what you're doing now. What are you up to now?
Well, first I just have to say it is such an extraordinary treat to be here in Nevada City and watch the power of this community, not only speaking for this amazing watershed, but to convene people from around the world and the country to learn about what's going on everywhere. So it feels like such an extraordinary gathering, watching people learning what's going on, what people can do to get involved, and so it's
magic in the air. This is the largest film festival, environmental film festival in the world.
Someone last year said it's by far the best environmental film festival in the world.
Yeah.
So,
the best and the biggest.
Yeah, and so local
but there's
group.
An energy, there's a synergy that happens. You did a workshop the other day on activism. Talk a little bit about what you were sharing with people from your many decades of experience.
Yeah, well, and one last thought on your having 800 volunteers. I mean, I don't know, I've worked with watershed groups all over the world, and very few come even close to doing what you guys are doing. So it's quite extraordinary.
Amazing. Glad you're here.
Yeah. So my workshop was around how do we deepen and grow and mature activism, and it was called A Through Line Through Turbulent Times. So
tell us what a through line is. That's a great.
Yeah. So as a river runner, you've been down rivers, right? So you know that if you a class 6 river, if you run that.
No, I have not been down a class 6.
Well, few people have that are still alive, because if you go down a class 6, you're dead, right? It just means you're dead, right? So a class 5 means you're right on the edge of everything. And so to run a class 5, you have to be really discerning. You have to be able to see the huge hole that can eat you and the boat and everybody with you. You have to be able to see under the water the shredder rock that can just rip your boat to shreds. And all those what look like little things in between, if you don't see them, they can spin you and put you into one of those other obstacles. So to run a class 5, you have to be really discerning. And what makes it a class 5 is there's somewhere a through line. So you have to learn how to look for that through line. So the other part is if you've done rivers a lot, you realize that if you keep looking at those big obstacles, they become magnets. So the challenge of being really discerning and then putting your attention into the through line is something that takes a while in river running to learn. So my experience is...
the point of focus.
Yeah, where we put our focus, right? So my experience is that humanity, most of humanity is in denial that we're in a class 5. No, I mean, and aren't they taking care of it? And those who are looking, because they know how much denial is going, they're pointing out all the obstacles and all the problems and all the challenges, but they're doing it in such an obsessive way, and they're forgetting to align us around where's the through line.
It's like calling you to the rocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and so they're trying to be discerning, and yet because we're doing it out of fear, we're not able to ground into, okay, where's the through line? We need to put all of our attention into that, and we're all in the same boat together. We can't waste our time fighting each other. You can see on a side of the boat that I can't see, and so I need your seeing. Even if it looks like you're on the other side of the boat, we're in the same boat. And so we need all of our seeing, and we need all of us to breathe into what's required at this time to take all of us down this through line so we come out the other side.
Beautiful metaphor. Very powerful.
The river was always powerful metaphors for me. When I first came out to work in Sacramento in state politics, the river had taught me those really sharp rocks. I eventually learned I could dance around them. At first they ripped my boat. Well, it was hard to apply that to the old curmudgeon politicians, But eventually I learned that politics flows downstream. So I could obsess on how powerful and mean and nasty and sharp they were, or I could remember that humanity and the currents flow downstream. So rivers have lots of metaphors for how do we live in these times and put all of our attention together, learning to dance with. There's only one future that works.
Now, one of the things, Mark, that
Yeah.
I'm interested in is about burnout.
Yeah.
Because we try to take on so much, and like you said, all I can see is this side of the boat, but I want to make sure that something's over here. We take on so much that we burn ourselves out.
Yeah.
You've been an activist now for 40 years. How have you kept yourself from burning out?
My sense is Joanna Macy touches on some of this. And I loved one of my colleagues at our workshop quoted one of her lines. It said, your heart really can't break, but your heart can break open. And when it does, it can hold the whole universe. So the river that got me started is gone. No one will ever know the magic and the miracle of 9 million years of evolution, the quiet eddies, the critters, and all of that. It's gone. And so I went up and I cried and cried and cried, and I thought, okay, well, I'll never have to cry again. Well, it's still, that was years ago, but that loss is still the tragedy of what we've lost. For the sake of progress, we need more, more, more. And so all of that said that somehow in Joanna's, how do we be open to the pain and what's on the other side? Because the loss of that place has also given me what made me start International Rivers Network. I don't want that to happen to any other sacred place on the planet or to any other amazing people. And in starting International Rivers, I got to meet some of the most amazing heroes on the planet. And we're all learning to follow our hearts. And so to not be in denial. Anyway, so to breathe in and out and to know that there's only one path and we may get stopped for a while, and how to breathe into all of that, and then how do we learn to dance forward? So
part of that, and I spent a lot of time with Joanna too, is the whole thing she talks about, that we have to grieve, that we need to learn how to grieve. When I looked at Josh's film, Gasland 2, oh my God, we need a grieving room when you see that film, to really take in how big that is. But as Brian Swim says, how do you grieve? You can grieve a parent or a grandparent or even the death of a child or a dog or a cat. How do you grieve a species? We're losing 200 species a year. How do you grieve a whole species and open your heart that wide?
Well, Brian beautifully says we haven't yet matured the human heart. And I do sense that there's some part of we're in denial again. We're all connected. And so on some level we know that, but my experience is we're going faster and faster because we earnestly are trying rather than, and I think the reason people are drawn to Joanna because of her knowing what Brian said. It's how do we deepen our hearts and take all that in and then go, okay, now that I really know this, what's next? What do I do in this sacred moment? And I can't do what my other great friends are doing. I can only do what I can do. So there's some part of slowing down enough to listen to, again, what's my gifts?
I like that you say in that sacred moment, because is there any moment that's not sacred?
I know,
To come back, well, but what you're saying,
Yeah.
how do I bring myself back to the sacredness of right here?
Yeah.
Mark and Michael sitting and talking is a sacred
Yeah.
experience. Who knows what will happen out of somebody who listens and says, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
One of the things here that's so inspiring to me is the young people. I just, Deborah Weinstar was talking. I was just in tears listening to how the young people went to be with Tim, to Christopher, and just such a beautiful thing. And that's true in Copenhagen when I was there, in Cochabamba, in Rio de Janeiro, every place I've been. No matter how bad it's been with the UN and the corporate takeover, the young people just keep me inspired. What are your thoughts? What's your message that you'd like to tell the next generation of Mark Dubois coming out to take on your work?
Well, one thing I'd say is that last year my 28th Awakening Dreamer Symposium was an intergenerational, high school, college, and gray hairs. And it was so extraordinarily powerful. Watch this intergenerational. It's like rarely are we seen by a different generation. Yeah. So my sense is it's easy to hang out with our own peers, and my sense is we get to grow into do this intergenerational work. So I think the part about as we grow older, we start getting more, we get resigned. Oh, it can't happen. And the value of young people is indeed them following their own hearts. They know more than we knew. We thought it was bad way back when. Now it's getting much worse. And yet many of them, some of them are believing their parents, oh, there's no hope. And many of them are going, I'm not going to wait. I've got to pay attention to what I know and what am I going to bring forth. So, you know, Charles Eisenstein.
Oh yes, I love Charles.
To me, he's, you know, he not only is sacred economics, but he's beginning to play with
He's got
language.
a new book called Interbeing.
Well, no, his newest one is
I didn't know there was another one.
The better world our heart knows is possible.
That is the Interbeing book.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Excuse me, thank you.
Yeah.
Within it, to me, he's holding this concept of, if you look at all the problems in the world from this paradigm, there is no way we're going to make it. Yeah. And yet he is holding what I've been knowing, is that as we tap into the depth of who we truly are, and not operate from fear, but when we operate and connect to the love that animates all of life on this planet, then everything is possible.
Beautiful. Thank you, my brother. Well, this is Michael Stone. We're signing off here at the final interview at the 12th Annual Wild and Scenic Film Festival with Elisa Parker.
Right.
Yeah!
Thanks, Martin.
Bless you. I hope we didn't go over the 12.